It's that time again. If you're a real estate agent and you're looking to finally build a business that creates consistent cash flow, but you're concerned about all the market disruptions, relax. You found your safe haven to learn the secret to success. List you last. Welcome to this week's podcast. Hey, welcome fellow listing agents. Bob Mangold, the listing coach, here with episode number 15 of the If You List You Last podcast. Now, this week, we're going to talk about the difference between lead generation and client attraction. And yes, there's a massive difference between the two, and we'll break them down for you today. Now, as always, make sure you join us on the Real Estate Asset Advisors Facebook group. You can join in on the conversation or share your thoughts, leave comments, ask questions, or just leave me a list of topics you'd like me to discuss on the podcast. And if you have a topic or conversation, just go ahead and put it in there and we'll share that request, okay? Now, I am expanding across the country and I'm looking for motivated agents to become market share leaders in their community. And I've got 7 different strategies to eliminate every single obstacle agents encounter in becoming a dominant listing agent. So listen, if you're open to a conversation and you're willing to grow and change and do some work too, then go ahead and schedule a call with me at www.brainstormwithbob.com. So let's get started with this week's podcast. Let's get into the mortgage side of the market because there's a lot of information coming our way this week and it's going to have an impact, right? So tomorrow's consumer price index. Wednesday is mortgage applications. And I know a lot of people don't think that mortgage applications actually have an impact on interest rates. But I promise you folks, lenders are looking at that going, how do we adjust our pricing up or down to attract more business, right? Then Thursday, initial jobless claims. That's a big one. Retail sales, National Association of Home Builders Housing Market Index. That one's a good guide, and the Fed does follow that. Your industrial production, and on Friday, the producer price index. Now, that's the one that the Fed follows religiously. And then also on Friday, you got the University of Michigan Consumer Confidence. Now, last month, consumer confidence ticked up. And again, people think that doesn't have an impact on interest rates. Trust me, folks, the Fed is following that. Like, how does the consumer feel about the economy right now? So the question we have to ask is the consumer really resilient? Or there's something going on in the marketplace now that has an impact on the consumer, and it's called buy now, pay laters, right? So you might see it as BNPL. Here's what's crazy, folks. 88 million people, or 34% of adults, use buy now, pay later, which is up from 12% from last year. Now, 85% of them are paying over time, 15% in 8 weeks, 4 installments. So it works different than a credit card because it's installment payments. Now, here's a big deal. An installment payment on a $1,100 average, if you say, hey, the average holiday spend was $1,100 in 2023, then on a credit card, that would be about $32 a month. On a buy now, pay later would be $105. Why is that important to you? That's $105 dollars per month in a debt ratio that people have to consider. Now, as long as they haven't extended out past 10 months, it's okay, but it's just something that's different. What's fueling some of the economy now, in my opinion, is that you've got a lot of this 34% of adults going out and buying things that they can't afford, hoping that will take and ease their cash flow. The problem, folks, is sometimes you have to pay it. And now credit card is at a historic high, over $1 trillion in credit card debt. And understand this, the Fed raising or lowering interest rates, other than psychologically, has no effect on interest rates on a mortgage, but it does have it on car loans and credit cards. So if we're sitting at over $1 trillion and that ticks up 1 or 2%, believe me, folks, that cuts into somebody's ability to buy a house. It just totally raises their debt ratio, right? So here's a great piece of advice I'd like to share with you today, because I heard a lot of this week in different events that I did. And it's, hey, all I hear are buyers saying that I'm going to wait until interest rates come down. Folks, if they do that, here's what I promise is going to happen. because there's a negative side to it. See, for every action, there's always a reaction. When we start to have buyers flooding into the market, and we're not going to get that much more inventory, what's going to happen to housing prices? So you'll be back to many bidding wars out there, right? So you're going to pay more for the house. And so if I was you, I would start talking to my clients about getting into the market now. If interest rates drop, you can always refinance. But if the interest rates drop and you're waiting to go buy a house, I can promise you're going to pay a lot more money. Now, that would be a great social media or YouTube video for you to create, right? So you could create it on YouTube, you could put it on Instagram, you could put it on TikTok, you could turn it into a white paper, you could put it into your blog, you could put it into your Google My Business, right? So start to think about how do you get the message out there about things that are happening in the market so that your consumer is able to take and benefit from that. So if you got a bunch of buyers sitting on the fence, folks, now's the time to tell them, not necessarily a good strategy. You're going to want to get out in front of this before the market goes crazy. Hey, listen, it's a great opportunity for you to start using that as video content to get out there on social media. Okay? So let's talk about client attraction or lead generation. Which one do you want to do? It sounds better to say client attraction than lead generation. And the reason it sounds better, because it is. And so here's really what precipitated the conversation for this week. On last week's podcast and our Elevate business briefings, I talked about role-playing and open houses. So last week's business briefing was on open houses, and the podcast was on role-playing. And at the end of the day, every agent on the business briefing last week admitted that the real reason that they do open houses is to generate new business for themselves, which, listen, that's not a revelation, right? But at the end of the day, here's the thing, guys. If they're not willing to take and get comfortable at what they should say and some of the things that they should say and how they should say it, what's the reasoning behind doing it when you're not ready to take and convert a lead? And then on the podcast, I discussed the importance of role-playing. Now, role-playing to me is probably certainly top 3 things that are critical for an agent to become successful. They need to understand what they're going to talk to the consumer about. They need to practice on working on their tonality, their pacing, their pausing, things like that. And they're going to have to figure out what they're going to say so that it's conversational. And if you're not willing to do that, folks, I promise working an open house isn't going to do that. I taught that in my own class to my group last week. Then I did the podcast. Then I did the business briefing on that. I had one of my own agents on my personal team start working on running Facebook ads. They don't understand the listing system that we use. They don't understand the cash offer system that we use. Yet they're running out going, hey, I want to generate leads. And trust me, folks, they need a ton of work on being able to convert the lead, take and do a listing presentation and things of that nature. So for me, I get really frustrated. Full disclosure, we could call this a podcast, or this week it could be a rant. But I get frustrated when agents aren't willing to put in the work to improve their skills. The secret is not more leads, it's more skills. And here's a question that I'd ask you to consider. What's more important to you? Is it the number of leads that you have? Or is it the number of leads that you convert into closings? Because you could tell me you have a 10,000 person database of leads, but if you only closed one transaction from those 10,000 people, what good are all those leads, right? That is how you end up working so hard. You're doing all this follow-up and you're trying to work the phones and you're emailing, you're creating these systems, and you can't figure out why you're not able to convert because you're working on the wrong thing. So the question is, why would you ever work on generating leads when you can't convert them? So it makes absolutely no sense to me why agents want to throw money away without properly developing the skills. So think of it this way. If you're not willing to practice on what you say, how do you ever think you're going to take and persuade people to work with you? So here's what I mean by working on that persuasion skills and working on role playing and developing those skills. Because I hear this one a lot. Bob, you're just like, there's nothing you can't answer and you just know the right thing to say. That didn't happen by accident, folks. When I speak live, one of my favorite things to do, I call it, I'm working the wire live with no net. What does that mean? It means I take and volunteer to let any agent, anybody in a room that I'm speaking in, throw out an objection at me. And if I can't answer that objection to a very high level to where I can get them to say what I need or get an appointment or whatever the goal is, then I will buy them a drink in the bar after the event. And then I always quantify it. By the way, I've never bought a drink in a bar because I go out there and I can answer any objection, not because I'm so smart, because I've worked on that as a skill over the years. And I can get up live in front of any audience, anytime, anywhere, and they can throw whatever they want out at me, and I'm ready for them. That's what I mean by practicing your skills. Now, when I say close, I don't like the word close. So what I want you to understand is it's not manipulation. Sales skill is not manipulation. Here's what's manipulation. The old Ben Franklin close, right? Hey, let's take a piece of paper out and put the pros here and the cons here and do that. Hey guys, that was really cool 40 or 50 years ago. Not in today's market, right? That's not persuasion. So persuasion is very simple. It's simply learning how to help people get what they want. Now, understand this. People resist change like you cannot believe. They get cemented in their own ideas of what's right or wrong. And our job is to take and be persuasive enough with facts and logic to be able to persuade them that, well, our way of doing things is better. And so let's talk about that a little bit. So I want you to understand, this is not about being manipulative or using these sales skills, but the key to being wealthy is very simple. And I didn't create this saying. The secret to getting rich, it's really simple. Help enough people get that what they want, and you'll become wealthy. That was Zig Ziglar who said that. But it's 100% true. So you go, I help people get real estate. Really, what do? You open a door, you write a contract, maybe you negotiate. Like, isn't that about it? Can we agree, like, almost anybody can do that? Think of it this way. Have you ever met anyone, not a real estate agent, anyone in the general public that didn't want to have enough money to live a great life, right? We always associate that with, I want to become a millionaire. Here's the amazing part, folks. $1 million in today's world isn't as much money as you think it is. So being a millionaire is not necessarily that big of a deal anymore, but that's still what most people aspire to. So the majority of people have a goal of becoming a millionaire. Here's my question for you. What's the number one investment vehicle, asset class, however you want to refer to it, in the United States that creates wealth for more people than any other? It's real estate. Happens to be the business we're in. If you want to make $1 million, guys, this is pretty simple. Help persuade people or persuade more people to buy and finance real estate properly so they become millionaires. Yeah, it's really that simple. It's some time that you're going to need to sit down and figure out the math. Now, if you come to these Elevate Business Briefing classes that I do every other Wednesday, you'll see me go through those classes and explain the math and things like that. But here's the thing, folks, that requires time and effort. You got to show up. You have to listen, take notes. But at the end of the day, here's the $1 million question for you. Anybody listening to this right now, you have to figure out, why would somebody hire you? They have all kinds of options, right? I'm sure they have a relative that could sell houses. Why would they hire you? And so what I'm going to encourage you is to take and go to a coffee shop, go to a hotel lobby, go away for the weekend, and sit down, take 2 pieces of paper out. You can do it on a laptop if you want. Take 2 pieces of paper out. One is, why hire me to list? Second one, why hire me to buy? If you wanted to do a third one, why hire me to invest? You could do that too. But you're going to need to put down in a quantifiable way that you can explain to people quickly, in under 30 seconds, why they hire you. The minute you do that, you begin to become persuasive. Not manipulative, persuasive. And if you have such a great value proposition, then people are going to be attracted to you. See, when I tell them, hey, listen, I can get you listings off of MLS and I can meet you at the houses and show them, and I'm going to help you research the value before you write an offer, and I'll make sure that I set up inspections for you. Folks, is that really compelling? It's like people are attracted to that. Oh my God, did you hear him? He's going to set up a home inspection for us? That's amazing. You don't ever hear that, do you? That's your job. That's what people expect. So there's nothing magnetic about that. There's nothing particularly attractive about that. So as it relates to a buyer, here's what I tell them. Folks, there really are basically three mistakes that people who own real estate make. And really, my job is very simple. It's to help you not make those. And if we do these things properly, here's what I can do. We can get your house paid off in 7 to 10 years. And we can use that savings to accumulate $1 million in cash that you can use for your retirement. Now, bear in mind, that does not include the equity that you'll have in a house. So if you were buying a $400,000 house at the end of 30 years, appreciating at 4%, the house would be worth $1.279 million. So you could have $1 million retirement fund and 1.28, rounding up a couple bucks, 1.28 million in equity in property. You would be a multi-millionaire if you follow what I can show you. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we take money that every other agent and lender is going to have you give away to the bank instead of putting it to work for you and your family. That just doesn't seem to make much sense to me, that somebody in our industry would help you do something like that. What do you think? Everybody goes, yeah, that sounds stupid, but how do you do it? It'll take me about 15, 20 minutes to sit down and put together a plan for you. Am I going to attract more people like that? If I was working an open house and I had that conversation, if I was running Facebook ads and I had people calling me, wouldn't that be a more compelling reason to work with me than, yeah, I'll get you a list of properties over right away? Now, the cool part is, folks, is that one of the secrets to persuasion is that you can prove it. You're not, that sounds too good to be true. I'll be the first to tell you, I get it. It's the number one response I get. Hey, that sounds too good to be true. See, my value statement is simple to prove. It's just the math. And when I show people the math, then I have instant credibility. And the way that I leave it with people is, well, now you're going to have to execute the plan that we just looked at. And if you do execute the plan, you'll have $1 million. And if you don't, you won't accumulate the money. It's on you. I did what I promised you. I'm putting together a plan. I'm showing you exactly how it works. I show you exactly how to do everything that I just showed you. And if you follow this plan for the next 30 years, that's where you'll be. Now, the good news is every year in the month of December, I'm going to just check in with you real quick. And we'll take about 15 minutes and we'll go through and see if we need to revise the plan. But here's what I want you to understand, folks. If at any point in the year you have questions or we need to look at adjusting your plan, then just schedule a call and we'll do that. What real estate agent's doing that? Then part of the follow-up plan would be to take this little thing and send them a text message once a quarter. Hey, just checking in. Everything going great on your plan? Wow. Is that more persuasive to get people to work with me instead of you? Here's the thing, guys. You have to figure that out for yourself. What are you doing for your clients? What value do they get by working with you? Can you articulate that benefit in somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds? And are you comfortable talking to people about it? Because if you're not, guess how you get comfortable? You role play. Now, I hate it when agents tell me that, oh, Bob, I love that pitch. It's not a pitch. It's a proven path to helping my clients build wealth, and I damn sure am an expert at it. I'm not pitching anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm teaching my clients what I know. Make sense? Secondly, the language that you use and how you articulate that value proposition is critical. And again, one of the benefits of role playing is that you get to be comfortable in substituting those words because they're so ingrained in us, right? You know, when you call a FSBO, hey, are you willing to pay a 3% commission? That's so ingrained in real estate agents, you have to break that habit. Don't ever call it a commission. It's a finder's fee, right? See, you call things like listing agreements or paperwork. I refer to them as my marketing agreement. See, they're not hiring me to list the property, so why am I calling it a listing agreement? Yeah, I get the legal part of it, but remember, words we use matter. Hey, this is my commitment. This is my contract to you saying this is what I'm going to do to market your house. Does that make sense? It's small changes in the language that you use, but they're massive, right? It's never commission. It's always compensation. Think about it. You go, I don't talk about offering 3% if I find a 3% commission if I find a buyer. What's the one thing that the number one reason a FSBO doesn't hire an agent? They don't want to pay a commission. So why would you ask them to pay a commission? Here's how I ask it. I would go, could I ask would you be opposed to offering the standard 3% finder's fee if an agent finds a buyer for you that's willing to pay you the price you're asking or maybe more? So a couple things I want to point out in there. If you're opposed to, they may be opposed to it. That's my opening for them to say, yeah, I'm opposed to that. I'll only pay you 2. Within our Home Boss listing system, I don't really care if they want to pay 2, they don't want to pay any, doesn't matter to me. I have an answer for them. But now guess what? I'm letting them stay in control. They don't have to get defensive. I'm not cornering them, putting them on the spot. Hey, dude, you willing to pay me 3% commission for offering the standard 3% finder's fee? Standard? What do you mean standard? That's my standard. I take 3%. If an agent finds a buyer for them, notice I didn't say if I find a buyer for you. Why? Because that's putting them in the corner again. Do you see how that works? And then, hey, if I find a buyer for you that's willing to pay your price or maybe more. And do you notice how I raised my voice on maybe more? What do you think they remember most? The language that we utilize matters. The words we use matter, and the way that you get better at these is to practice that. And again, I will just tell you, role-playing does one main thing for me. If I'm calling a FSBO, there's a payday available for me there if I do a great job at it. Why would I practice when there's money at risk? Why don't I practice with another agent, a spouse, a kid, somebody other than where there's a payment available? Doesn't seem to make much sense to me. But people don't like role-playing. It's, I'm uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. So at the end of a listing appointment, I don't like calling them listing appointments. It's not a listing appointment. Or it's at the end of a listing appointment, it's really, it's not a presentation. It's a listing appointment. I'm going in there to find out if I can list your home. You could even call it a marketing appointment. And then how do you end those? The number one reason I believe most agents don't end up listing a property is they don't understand how to end the conversation. Agents typically refer to it as, I don't know how to close a listing. That's why you keep talking. You don't know what to say at the end. And so here's what I recommend you say. And I've said this in other podcasts. Part of the reason I want to repeat these things is because you really do need to get that into your head and make it become part of your conversation. So here's what it would sound like. I don't have anything else to go over with you. It looks like we possibly covered everything you were looking for. And really the next step is send the marketing agreement over for your review. And we can pick your open house dates and get that on the calendar. And when you're ready, sign the marketing review and get it back to me. Would that be appropriate, or how would you like to proceed from here? Now, if you're listening to this for the first time and you're going, what do you mean I'll send it over to you? Why don't I just have them sign it when I'm at their house? The reason is we don't generally go to their house anymore. We do a listing presentation online. And so we simply send it over with some materials, all the listing paperwork. We give them a copy of the listing PowerPoint, the slides that we reviewed, because we tell them, hey, I'm going to send this over. And we have about a 15-page guide on what to do when you're selling your house. It tells them how to prepare it and all the things that they need to do So it's designed very nicely. It's very professional. So when they get everything from us, they have that. And then it's on them when they sign it and send it back to us. That doesn't mean we don't follow up. And so we just pick the open house dates. Hey, why don't you grab your calendar and let's take a look at that so we can get it on the calendar. That's really how we finalize our listing conversations with people. So we've just got to understand that the words that we use matter. We've got to stop trying to pressure people. And all these hard sell closes, the only way I can think of explaining it, these scripts that have been around for 50 years, folks, they're wrong. That did work 50 years ago. The world's changed now. They don't need us for a lot of the things that they used to, right? Before there was really an MLS, you had to go to the listing agent who actually had the listing. Are we going to go back to that again? I believe we're probably very close to it. So at the end of the day, you have to change the skills that you have. So number one, I would ask yourself, who are you listening to for coaching? How successful have they been? And then, would you want to be sold that way? So think of it this way. Like I could ask you questions and trap you into saying yes. But what does that feel like when you know you have to say yes or you would sound completely crazy? So you say yes. You resent it, don't you? You're backed into a corner. That stuff doesn't work anymore. And if we start to focus on what the consumer themselves want, then life is going to get a lot better for you. And then you have to practice those skills through role playing to do it. Because folks, if you're listening to this and you think that leads are going to solve your problem, I'm here to tell you they will not. All it creates is more work, more frustration, more headaches, right? Let's be honest. Most social media leads, guys, if you can get a 1% conversion rate on it, you're killing it. So you get 1,000 leads. That's a lot of leads to work through to get 1%. Wouldn't it make more sense that we were working with people in our database that they could refer to us, or referral partners that could refer to us? Wouldn't that make more sense to get skilled at that instead of all these crazy things on Facebook and things like that? Now, don't get me wrong. There's a place for that. For me, custom audiences are the way that we do that, right? So if you get into my database, I want to make sure that you're seeing me on Facebook or Instagram every day or however often you go onto Facebook. If you go on there, I want you to see me. The good news, it costs $1 or $2 a day. That's a far better strategy for me to do that, especially when I have a great value proposition. Does that make sense? So if you want to start attracting clients instead of generating leads, figure out why they should work with you first, and then let that be your story. Hey, folks, the reason that people work with me is I find most people would actually love to figure out how to take and utilize their mortgage and their piece of real estate that they live in and turn that into $1 million cash, have it paid off, and have all that equity sitting in a house for retirement. If that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, then feel free to call me or text me at the number below. What if you ended your videos like that? Right? You record a video like I told you about, hey, if you're thinking about buying a house now, don't wait until the interest rates come down. What if you ended your video like that? Do you think you'll attract more people than saying, hey, I can open a door, I can schedule appointment, or I can schedule home inspections for you? Think about that stuff, folks. So you know what? You're going to have to put in the work and put in the effort to be able to do these things. It's just how it works, folks. So that's it. I don't have anything else to go over with you. So don't forget, jump on our bi-weekly Elevate Business Briefings every other Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to www.elevatebusinessbriefings.com. On the Wednesday, we don't do Elevate Business Briefing. We do the Senior Solution. So this week, we have an estate planning attorney coming on and talking about that. You might go, not real interesting for me, but remember, 65% of every listing in 2022 came from a senior citizen. I'm providing content for them, not for me. And then, hey, if you do want more detailed information on the Home Boss process and how we use it, you can go download the pre-release version of my book at ifyoulistyourlast.com. So with that, hope that helps. I hope it gives you something to think about. Folks, Being a real estate agent requires skill, training, a thought process, and value branding, meaning what's in it for the customer, not for you. And the minute you figure that out, you're going to become really successful. So we'll talk to you next week. And remember, if you list, you last. Talk to you next week.